Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit Mercury conjunct one's natal Neptune. Now, when we're talking about transits that involve Mercury, excuse me, can be about what we're objective about in communication, our thinking, learning, assimilating, processing information. And since this is Neptune that transit Mercury is conjoining, it could manifest in being objective and being more communicative, thinking, learning about. It could be about forgiveness. If this is in your seventh house in your natal chart, it could be somebody that was an open adversary. Uh, I have Neptune and Scorpio in the seventh house, so it could be when I have this transit, it could be forgiving more of a vindictive or jealous open enemy or open adversary. And also could be about communicating, articulating matters connected with compassion as well. Thinking about being more compassionate at this time, more so than usual. If you're a person that has dominant Capricorn chart, something where it indicates you don't have, you're not like about an overabundance, or you have trouble expressing an overabundance of feelings or emotions or sympathy. This could be that time where you may show more so than usual. And also, too, it can be about matters with deception as well and duplicity, and trying to understand better, being more objective regarding perhaps facades, illusion, deception. If somebody's trying, you feel like someone's trying to pull something over on you, this is something that you might be thinking about more often. It could be something that may have transpired previously with somebody, or it could be something currently going on. That those are things that you might be contemplating and trying to process at this point in time. And also, Neptune is about a delusion as well. So you have to just be careful that your thinking doesn't become overly delusional. I mean, it's good to think idealistically, which is a positive, you could say, attribute of Neptune, but avoid being overly, delusional at this time. And keep in mind too that yes, Mercury can be about our rational thinking and being objective, so you could be very much more objective about Neptune-related things. But when you have the contact with Neptune, another way it could manifest in some cases is that sometimes you might feel that it could be your rational thinking will not feel your rational thinking may be dissolved or dissipated to some time for a period, and or maybe even more. Your mind may be more chaotic, more so your thinking might be a little bit more chaotic, more so than usual at this time. But the good thing is the transit does not last very long. It's only about a few days on average. It's not a very sustained or protracted transit because Mercury traverses the zodiac signs very quickly. And I'm talking about, of course, when Mercury is direct. And now also, too, this could also be about speaking about matters connected with drugs or alcohol. If you're somebody, in some cases, if you're recovering from some alcoholic situation, or you were maybe a habitual user, whether it was alcohol or drugs, this could be the time where you might be coming out and talking to others about it more so than usual at this time. And also to remember, Neptune is about addictions in general. So it could be where, in some cases, your mind might be a little bit more addicted, or just could be thinking about, things where, that might be addictive. If this is in Scorpio or the eighth house, it could be a sexual addiction. And in some cases, you might be speaking about this, and it might be dominating, your thoughts more so than usual at this time. And the thing about this too is that I talked before about how Neptune could be about dissolving and dissipation. Now, it could be a time too where you might be you might be thinking or and really trying to learn more about dissolving something. It could be And if it's in the 8th house, as an example, it could be a shared resources situation. If Sagittarius or 9th house are religious, maybe from some religious congregation, you're trying to get some separation and dissolve that union, so to speak. And also, too, your mind may be more about spirituality and the spiritual element or aspect of things, and whether you're doing astrology or what have you. It could be where your mind may be more focused on the spiritual aspect of whatever it is you are doing at this time, and trying to see things more. Remember, Mercury is about perception. It could be about how we're perceiving things more from a spiritual element. Also, too, as far as anatomically speaking, this could be a time where you might be trying to get a better understanding, especially like if you have issues with these parts of the body. Neptune, anatomically speaking, is connected with the feet, the toes, lymphatic system, immune system. It can be a time where you might be trying to get a greater understanding of this, and also lethargy as well. If you're just experiencing some tiredness or sleepiness, you might be thinking about what you might be able to do about this, and your mind is more apt to trying to communicate and articulate these matters. It could even be through writing in some cases. And the thing about it too is it's also at this time as well. You might be more, thoughts might be more, or it's in speaking about escaping, in some cases, isolation. And you might be doing your best work during this very short transit. It could be your best communications and writings may be done in isolation and seclusion at this time. And also, too, this is about speaking about your ideals more so than usual at this time. And say if this is in Scorpio, it could be about Neptune in Scorpio, it could be about self-sacrificing, which is Neptune, and shared resources, which of course it can be connected with Scorpio. And now another thing too, remember that Mercury is also associated with siblings, cousins, and neighbors, and these people may be more prominent. Maybe it matters with filmography. If you're a YouTuber, for example, maybe you collaborate with one of these people at this time in a video. It also matters with fantasy and maybe fulfilling some kind of dreams at this time. Neptune is also associated with the metaphysical, which includes astrology. So these people might figure stronger in these matters as well, whether you might be working on some, astrological endeavor together, or something, filmography or fantasy. Now, if it's in, for example, if this is in Sagittarius in the fifth house, it could be about maybe perhaps matters with hypothetical, fantasy, which is Neptune, and something with sports, Sagittarius, and in the 5th house of games. And it could be where you're really using your mind to come up with these, hypothetical scenarios, or maybe you can create a game, like a simulated sports game. That might pit teams from the past, for example, like taking like the 1975 Cincinnati Reds against the 1927 New York Yankees, in a Major League Baseball example. Also, too, short journeys might be more convoluted at this time, or maybe you might be taking a journey out to sea or to the water somewhere, whether it's at a beach or what have you, and maybe even more foggy. It might be where you, for whatever reason, might encounter more fog, and conditions might be a little bit obscure when you're driving. And also journeys, again, it could be about escaping reality. You might be driving to some very secluded spot, a desolate spot, and there might be a lot of open area where you're just away from everybody. It could even be a place in the woods if you got one of those people that have like a cabin in the woods that you may own or what have you, and it's away, and it's so far away from civilization. That could be the ideal thing at this time. Remember, Mercury is also connected with the brain, and Neptune can be about fog. And some of you may have heard that, if I'm not mistaken, the COVID-19 some repercussions or side effects from that, or I've heard of brain fog. So it could be a time you might be experiencing a little bit of this at this point in time. Hold on a moment, people. But anyway, also too, there may be a greater propensity for car flooding. Remember that Mercury is connected with local transportation. Flooding can be associated with Neptune, or maybe your vehicle comes more into contact with chemicals for whatever reason. It could just simply be a time where you might be cleaning your vehicle if you procrastinated for a certain amount of time. And also about, you could be dealing with more communications that are ambiguous, but at the same time might be imaginative as well. And also breathing, it could be where the breathing, there might be some complications with that because Neptune is about dissolving. Mercury could be associated with breathing. Neptune also allergies. There might be some issues that are tied in with your breathing, and maybe there's some, there might be some it might be attributed to allergies at this time. And also too, this is about remember that Mercury, anatomically speaking, is connected with the arms, the hands, eyesight, nerves, and lungs. And this could be a time in even breathing. And since we're talking about the conjunction to Neptune, there might be some weakness with this at this time, and more so than usual. And there could also be a time, this could also manifest in some cases where, on a positive note, this could be auspicious for communication with the less fortunate, such as the impoverished, the oppressed, the homeless, the hungry, people that are incarcerated. It can be a time that you might be more, about preaching to the imprisoned, say, especially if this is in Sagittarius or the ninth house, I would say. Um, because Sagittarius and the ninth house, of course, are associated with religion. Now, the 12th house is spirituality, so if the transit occurs there, that could be another another example of that. And also maybe there may be more communication with mediums at this time. You might actually be conversing with them more than usual, whether you're trying to get some insight into your future, or your life ahead, or even people in the metaphysical, which includes astrologers. And you might be more inclined to write about Neptune related things such as the sea, boating, fishing, poetry, things that are fantastical, fictional. It could even be chemistry, the metaphysical, which includes astrology, things with illusion like magic, being, things that, magic tricks. And also, you might be informed at this time. Remember that Mercury can also be about news. You might be informed and get news about something that was a person that's been deceptive or duplicitous. If this is in the 11th house, it could be a friend or an acquaintance, and also fraud at this time. If this is in the 8th house, as an example, it could be some kind of insurance fraud that is communicated to you if you've been waiting on something to determine or ascertain what was going on with an insurance situation, that you were suspicious of some kind of fraud. This is the time where you may get news pertaining to that. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.